What is going on? It is Thursday, and I'm just working on a recent rehaul for a friend who kind of just wanted to do a my own take on a H2 mask. So this is sort of a H2 TOTS rehaul. It's not really based on one specific look. It's a really dirty H2 mixed with sort of a third act H1. It's got blood on the sides, neck hole blood. The paint's just been sealed. I'm fixing the hairline right now, and I'll get some better footage of this mask when it's done in the right lighting and stuff, because in the bright white light like this, it doesn't look very good. But just cutting the hair, and yeah. I've come to really enjoy doing these TOTS rehauls. It's hard to not admit that TOTS, even if you don't like their paint jobs, their molds are killer. So if you have the time or want to pay somebody to do a rehaul, you have yourself a really cool looking TOTS. Like, I'm not the best rehauler by any means, but it's a cool little side gig. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy the looks I come up with. I think other people do too. Not everybody, but a decent amount of people. So with that said, if you guys haven't followed Night Witch Productions yet, it's my mask company as well as my mask rehaul company. Check out facebook.com/Nightwitch official. Night Witch Productions here on YouTube, which doesn't have its own handle yet because it's not a big enough channel yet, but it's there. Search Night Witch Productions and you will find it. So yeah, that is what's going on. This is for my buddy, and he's going to come and pick it up tomorrow. So I'm just finishing the hair. I'm going to spray the hair tonight and sign it because it is ready to go. Looks great in low light. Went heavier on the T than usual, but that's okay because in the right light it looks fantastic. But this wasn't I know earlier this year I did a full TOTS Kirk conversion. This is actually an existing H2 TOTS that I repainted entirely repainted. Hand painted. I'm not a fan of airbrush. I don't use airbrush predominantly. So I use mainly acrylic paints mixed with latex. Because if you use straight acrylic paint, you're going to lead to a bunch of paint flaking off and cracking, unless that's the look you're going for. I've done that before where I wanted it to look really old and worn and stuff, so I'll paint it with just straight acrylic and seal it. But usually just to make sure it stays on there and moves correctly and lasts for years. When I'm mixing the acrylic paint, I'll add the RD407 latex to whatever paint I'm using and just use it that way as I am hand painting. And I will still seal the paint job with Plastidip. So there's two levels of protection in that vein. This mask could get wet and the paint should be fine. So I'm restoring the hairline where it was before. I'm going to give it to about right there. So I'm going to first I'm going to brush the hairline. So there's an even coat. That's what Bob Ross says, right? A nice even coat. This is rubber cement I'm using. Just Elmer's rubber cement. You could use tacky glue. Well, there's all kinds of weird stuff other people use. People use liquid nails. I've heard people have great success with that. I've heard of people using silicone caulking, which makes no sense to me. I'm never going to try that because that doesn't really, the hair doesn't really last in that way. It won't stay down very well, in my experience. I could be wrong. So I'll stick with the rubber cement and or the tacky glue for doing the hair. And it, yeah. Also, here's a cool K&B ghost face mask I've been working on. Finished the paint on this tonight and sealed it. So that's ready for a new hood and some eye mesh. Not sure if I'm going to keep this or sell it. But if I sell it, you guys will be the first to know and have first dibs. So yeah, I think we'll get started. I'm going to do the big pieces first. There's a million ways you can do this, none of which are wrong. A lot of these traditional mask makers out there will say, well, you're doing it wrong. Well, no, it's doing it a different way. You can really do whatever works for you. Whatever works for you. Now this is going to look really rough at first. That's okay, because we're going to fix it. Besides, it's an H1, H2 mask. It should look a bit rough, because that mask looked rough. Am I right or am I right? Now, I really don't want a very straight hairline on this because again we're doing H1, H2. That was a very as good of a job as Tom Lee Wallace did for making an iconic piece. It was a very, very, for lack of a better word, sloppy creation. So I don't want a perfectly straight hairline. If I was doing an H4, I'd want a more straight hairline than this. But I don't. I want it to be messy. I want some frayed hairs. I want some hairs stuck in the glue. I want a bunch of unevenness and crudeness. That's what you want. A lot of it. So the cruder, the better. This guy's been chasing Lori all night. He's been shot out of a window. All kinds of bad stuff has happened to this guy. All kinds of bad stuff. Okay, I'm just kind of laying it on there. And I'm going to mat it down with the tongue depressor. Pardon my arm there for a second. But again, since we're doing an H2, which is really just an H1, you know, several years later, same night later, but several years later in the actual production, you can really get away with a lot here because the mask already is so crude. All right, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. My toddler was feeling like she was choking in her sleep. She woke up coughing, so I had to go see about that real quick. She's fine. She's good. She's good. Anyways, where were we? I was saying, because it's an H2, you can get away with being extremely crude because the mask is so crude. So yeah, if you gotta make a really rough hairline, that's okay. So you can get away with it. It's good practice too. It's good practice. We're gonna fix and style all this hair later. I really love these dirty, dingy H1/H2 masks because they're so there's such a old school Halloween primitiveness to them that really feels like an old Halloween mask you'd find as a kid. You know, things are a little bit sloppy and stuff isn't glued on there properly and all that kind of stuff. I love that stuff. Now, what we're going to do, since that hair is back on there, we are going to take our fingers, kind of separate some of this so it falls flat. We'll style that later. I'm going to sort of take my fingertips, sort of do this. A little tuft of hair right here. Right there. There we go. All right. I'm just trimming off some of the hair because hair is a bit too long on this thing. Hair's a bit too long. Hair on the original mask, I think a lot of people remember it being long. It's not long really by any means. This is even still too long, but I'll leave it. I'll leave it alone. Hair slicked back. Hair slicked back. That's on there. Now I'm going to give it one last look at the hairline. It's dirty and grungy and uneven, just like I love it. I love it. So, let's use the brush for this part because I'm just going to add some extra stuff. Again, as nasty and dirty as possible for this hairline. Don't worry about the tackiness. We're going to cornstarch all that out after this all dries. Okay, now that is a dirty, nappy hairline. That is gnarly. Now we're going to give him some horns. The H2 horns, right? So let's do this. Kind of had one sticking out like that. I'm just going to twist. Twist, twist, twist. Twist, twist, twist. Let that down a little bit of rubber cement. Twist. Twist, twist, twist. Same with this one down here. Just those sort of wispy little things. Not too long. There we go. They're gonna look kind of crazy at first, but you're gonna see what I'm doing. So, you see those horns? They're little offshoots sticking out. They're kind of twisting. Just down here, a couple of these. Little like matted hair. Matted hair. Just kind of twisting stuff up with the fingertips. I'm gonna sort of tack the ends with the rubber cement. And of course, this is gonna look wacky and incorrect right now, but once they're in place, you'll see what I'm doing here. Okay, so take some rubber cement, some more rubber cement. Those, not those, not those. Again, I'm not the best at rehauling masks. I'm not the best mask maker from scratch. It's always a learning curve. There's plenty of people out there far superior at this than me. All right. I'm gonna do like one or two more of those. Do one there. Do one right here. Just for giggles. Okay. Now, this is crazy really as I want to get with the H2 horns. Now we're going to put them in place and then I'm going to go spray the hair. I'm going to set this back in here. This is dirty as possible. Because that's now. You can have a couple antenna things sticking out. His hair was absolutely crazy in part two. Little horn things. See that? Kind of see what I'm doing there? Now I'm going to go hairspray them.